So I was able to travel the world and work on some very important problems for the planet. And I loved that, but I was burnt out at 26. So if you say to someone, I need you to find a new X or a new Y, you've already sabotaged that innovation opportunity. We're all sample sizes of one. But when you get a bunch of sample sizes of one who think in different ways, something magical happens.
Hello and welcome to the Winners' Words podcast, where we unearth what it takes to succeed in the Market Research Awards from the winners themselves. I'm your host, Lewis Reeves, CEO and founder at Walr, and today our guest is the winner of an extremely important category, Innovation of the Year. And the winners in 2023 were Freemavens, and today representing us, Andrzej. Andrzej, welcome to the podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Andrzej, innovation in market research is a really hot topic at the moment. I think the industry is moving faster than it's ever moved before. And so I'm really keen to understand your background, a little bit about Freemavens and what you're up to, and then your perspective on all things innovation.
Excellent. So a little bit about my background. So I didn't start in this industry, but I did start in an industry with ambiguity, which I think comes on to the world of market research. So I started as a chemical engineer, but there's really three types of chemical engineers. There's the academic, all right, so you want everything to work perfectly on a piece of graph paper. There's the operator who just makes things happen 24/7. And there's traits in both of those that I do not possess. And there's luckily a gray area in the middle, and the gray area is R&D. And what's great about R&D is it's the gray of models. So sometimes a model will say something can only happen twice in 5 billion years, and then you see it happen on a Tuesday and then the next Thursday. And so my first chapter in my career was working in a high-risk form of chemistry. So I enjoyed the constraints of risk and ambiguity, and luckily I worked for an organization that let me really flex. And as I was trying to gain experience, part of the goal of R&D is not to be blinded by experience. So I was able to travel the world and work on some very important problems for the planet, for the globe, and I loved that, but I was burnt out at 26, and I did a reset. And the reset was I went back to school, and that's what brought me to the UK. So I did an MBA, and the joy of that was realizing that I came from a field where I was a bit of a golden boy, and then thinking, I've done nothing. So I met all these amazing people, 34 nationalities across 105 students, and I was just in awe of how little of the world, especially the business world, that I had seen. And so that was my pivot point. So two critical things happened. One, I got knocked a bit down from my pedestal in my mind of chemical engineering. And the second thing that happened was I just had an incredibly hungry appetite for what people were doing. And that was the first moment I got exposed to the world that isn't chemistry and ones and zeros. And it was in the marketing and creative industries, which was 180 degrees from where I was. So I was very lucky. I decided to do a student project and throw myself in the deep end. And the comedy bit is I got a phone call right when my debt was going to kick in and I'm going to have to start paying back this MBA. And this creative agency went, hey, can you freelance for us? And I'm thinking, I've got no credibility to be freelancing for anyone, let alone this. And they were like, no, when you did the project, you asked really good questions. And the funny bit was I was asking questions and I realized that some people perceived them to be rhetorical. But I, being an engineer, was being serious. So before I know it, I was offered a role. I worked in the planning and the creative sides of the business, so I was a bridge between the two. And the breakthrough moment, which led to my last chapter in founding Freemavens, was creatives. I was amazed at how sometimes a single insight on a piece of paper could change a brief or opportunity. But I got a little scared when I scratched some of those insights. So sometimes you'd find out that the insight was a sample size of one. You know, a person would be working for a discount supermarket and they would come up with the insight while they're choosing olives in Waitrose. And I thought that something doesn't feel right here. And so I started playing with data, and I was told that creatives would hate it. I was told that there was no interest in Excel or things like this. And I was like, that's not the point. It's not the method that matters. These ones and zeros are human stories. And so that second chapter created an itch where I thought, you know what, maybe there's a chance to harness the ones and zeros that human beings make and use that as a drive to help businesses be worthy of advocacy. And 11 years ago, I co-founded Freemavens.
Fantastic. And tell us a little bit about the core work that Freemavens is doing. Is it working predominantly for the media sector or for all sorts of clients?
Great question. So we are very, very lucky that we have an enviable roster of blue chips. So everything from FMCGs to the spirits category to skincare, you name it. We're quite industry agnostic. So we work in every part of the supply chain. So some of our big moments have been helping with new product development, all the way down to content and comms, tone of voice. Sometimes they're small things, sometimes they're medium, sometimes they're big, but luckily the insights are generous. So we know we're doing it right when we're in a room with many domain experts and they're all nodding because they think that insight's for them. That's the moment where you really feel that the insight is application agnostic.
Yeah. And Andrzej, your role within Freemavens is not a very common job title in our sector. So why don't you tell us about your job title and what day-to-day life looks like?
So I feel very lucky with my job, and I feel very lucky with my title, not for title's sake, but it's a vote of confidence from the business to allow some room for a mad scientist and the mad scientist within Freemavens. So my title is founder and innovation partner. It also is a revealing title because it tells you I shouldn't be the MD of anything. So some of the best promotions I've made in the business essentially is making people my boss. And the reason why is because my day-to-day life is being comfortable with complexity, uncertainty, ambiguity, and finding little moments of clarity in that. And very rarely is it new stuff. So I teach in my spare time, and I teach creativity and innovation courses. And nearly always the people who attend those courses have convinced themselves they're not creative, they're not innovative. And my task really is to redefine what creativity and innovation means for them. And a lot of it is this obsession with new. There's nothing new.
Yeah.
All right? That the tyranny of new is like the biggest ball and chain you can give to someone. So if you say to someone, I need you to find a new X or a new Y, you've already sabotaged that innovation opportunity. So my day-to-day job isn't really about new. It's about adapt, evolve, and change and connect so that the complexity is less scary, not because you have the whole picture, but you get these moments of clarity. And some of those clarity moments are dead ends. A thing doesn't work, and you just don't sweat it, and you have to show that. So a big part of my job, day to day, really is looking as clueless as anyone else in the room, right? The worst thing I could possibly do is project that I have answers to everything, because that's not the reality of innovation. Innovation has different personalities and profiles, but what happens is as people add their little beams of light, you find ways to do new things.
Nice. And it sounds like an incredible thought-through approach to innovation in a world that's moving so quickly, and dare I say, the danger sometimes for innovation's sake. It's very purposeful, the innovations that you guys are looking for.
I think there's some toxic innovation behaviors that aren't helpful for any industry. We have a relatively safe environment. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You get embarrassed, or you do something like that stuff you can sweat. So one of the things I love about the space, and I think it's why the title doesn't come up very often, is often the title's put forward, or the words put forward before there's proof. And the reason I say that is because some innovators, they are blinded by fame, they're blinded by new, they're blinded by shiny, or snake oil, whatever the buzzword or jargon of the day is, AI this, machine learning that, generative this. And it's great because it keeps people excited. That's the good bit. But the bad bit is it clouds the fact that the reality of your job is to unearth utility. And that requires humility. And so what I love about right now in our industry is we have a complex world that lacks a lot of clarity. And most of the innovative practices that we're pursuing is not to win an award or to gain fame. It's always by this restless, almost like cathedral building where you don't know where the end's going to be. where you go, there has to be a better utility to make a fair world between consumers and businesses. There has to be a more enlightened version of capitalism. And nearly all of that is about seeing the differences between what people say they want. People are really good at that. In personal relationships, professional, they're like, I want X, Y, Z. We are horrible as a species at saying what we need. Need comes from inference and empathy and curiosity. So I would say the coolest part about the innovative world right now in industry is that if you start from there, it is easy to be purposeful. If you're going the other way, it's also easy, but to little benefit. You get a whiz bang this, and everyone goes claps because they don't know what you've done, but it looks cool, and you're happy, and you're like, oh, that's new, and I don't know how to interpret that, but that must be smart. And then what you realize is that the innovation has made no one else clever. The best innovations, the creator of it, or the teams that create it, they're not the people who feel clever afterwards. It's the people in the room and around it, and that's when you know you've done it. That's when it's been purposeful and impactful.
Fantastic. Great segue, and I don't think anyone will be surprised that you were the winner of the Innovation of the Year Award. Innovation of the Year Award went to you guys for the Tilt platform.
Yeah.
I would love to understand a bit more about that. What does it do? Where does it play a role in the business? Yeah. Is it your own technology?
Yes, it is our own technology. It combines in bits and bobs you can get from your local DIY shop, as most innovations do. But the way those things have been connected has changed something. So I'm going to use some jargon. Unfortunately, it's easier that way. So yes, it's in the AI and machine learning space, but my joke there is most AI and machine learning is just faster, more computers, more CPU. It's a race towards efficiency and commoditization. Tilt is not going that way. So what Tilt is it's a machine learning model that is the broadest of churches. It is data agnostic. It is not trying to mark our own homework. So you probably gather I have some hippie tendencies, and one of them is I don't like data and insight cabals, okay? Where I'm always fascinated when the data creator and the data owner marks their own homework. I'm always like, that is like structural bias. That is the tyranny of silos. And what Tilt does is it can't even see the silos, okay? It allows you to dream up potential signals that could be related to a performance outcome. So I'll give you a real life example. Let's say you were really keen to understand how to improve your running, okay? And you want to understand what are the latest trends as a fitness brand in that space. Tilt would allow you to decide on what potential targets are, and then you get to decide what first, second, third-party data you want to throw at it. It could be a bad signal. It could be like, how many texts does my mom send me a week? All right, that's a time series. But let's put it in. All right. It could be the last time I emptied the dishwasher and did the laundry and mowed the lawn. Tilt takes all those signals and removes the bias of who wants that signal to win, and lets the signals fight out for their right to be there. You know, it's like looking at a football team. You got some players you want to keep on the bench. There's some players you want to bring in for just the last 30 minutes of a game, and then others you just wish would never get injured and play all the time. Essentially, it's doing that. It's going, hey, what combination of these people and forces? Some of them you can't control. It could be the weather or the economy, but some of them can be. It could be your brand presence or your share within a category search term, things like this. Tilt takes all those signals, and then from that complexity narrows down the most predictive forces for performance. So it takes that noise and gets to a place of nirvana where you not only know the weight of those impacts, but the relationship between those signals. So suddenly the most junior person in your team can go, I wonder if this is something to do with people walking after the pandemic. This happened on a real project. A junior person went, I think something happened. I think people's tolerance for drizzle is increased. And we're like, well, this is quite interesting. All right. Put in the signal, and what do you know? The signal shows that it's a wider bell curve. People have become more tolerant, it's less spiky. Then we connect that to their sales performance. And what do you know? There was a sales relationship there. That's what Tilt does. You throw us a bunch of signals that you possess, the ones we can secure from search, social, news, reviews, whatever. And then we let Tilt show us on a seesaw what will probably hurt your performance or tip you up towards growth. That's what Tilt does.
And in terms of the practical benefits for your customers, this is speeding up their journey to insights?
There are three benefits, but they don't come in the order we sell it, okay? So the first thing that it does is it democratizes the buzzwords of data science, machine learning. We purposely designed it so you always feel clever, okay? So we hide all the amazing things the team have done in the background. That's the first one. Second one is we've democratized what you can throw in the mix. So unlike, say, an MMM model where you kind of keep all your media data separate from everything else, this allows you to put anything you want into the mix. It could be distribution, shelf space, promotions, pricing, your competitor performance, whatever. And people really like the fact that there's an open door. And then the third bit is time travel. So we're dealing with answers that have already been created by markets and consumers. So that means you are able to ask questions of the past that you can't put into a survey. You can't go back in time. And that means you can be more creative about the forces beyond your category, cultural context, life stage, lifestyle, demographics, whatever. So you can sit there and understand the bigger playground you're in. We know that brands and categories are narrow moments of attention in people's lives, and we have to be honest about that. And that's the bit that normally is the most important towards the end of a project. There's something really powerful about seeing like a weather impact sitting right next to a consumer confidence, next to a premium retailer. And I think that is the moment where Tilt really lands. They go, all these signals had a chance. And now I can see a broader picture of not only my business, but like humanity around it.
Fascinating and a truly incredible innovation. And the award for the business, talk to me about the impact that's had and some of the upsides you've seen since winning the award.
Entering for the Live Innovation of the Year award from MRS, it was brought up by the team. They're like, what's our benchmark this year for the things we're doing? And someone said, well, we do a bunch of stuff and don't talk about it. And so we went, oh, okay, well, let's put our name in the hat. And when we got shortlisted, that was winning for us, to be blunt. All right, we thought, okay, it's going to be some bigger player, etc. But there was a moment when we did the live judging panel where I just watched the eyes of the panel light up. Okay, so unbeknownst to them, we took someone's business on the panel and did a mini tilt. So nice. They did not see that coming. Okay, you could tell by the body language in the room. And when we found out that we had won it, the immediate effect was internal, right? There's a pride piece when you're an entrepreneurial company and you sweat for the things you do. As you said earlier, our innovation's purposeful. Those people weren't trying to win awards when they were trying to make Tilt better, and every part of the business touched the product. And for them, it was an affirmation, right? The story becomes realized and affirmed, which is great. The secondary benefit, as you're alluding to, is suddenly people are taking notice of you, all right? And my name is not easy to spell. It looks like someone fell on a keyboard, let's be blunt. So it's not like I'm the easiest person to look up on LinkedIn. I got the most amazing LinkedIn traffic ever, and so did the rest of the team. And then we started getting inbound through the website. That's not something we're used to, let's say. And a lot of it came from people who thought we were one thing, so they may have not worked with us. And it gives a little bit of light on everything else we do. And that also applies to internal existing clients. So the coolest bit was clients who've worked up with us for years, who we have great relationships with, and we hadn't done a tilt for them yet. And before we knew it, they're like, oh, I want one of those. Like, I've heard you talk about it, but like now I really, really, really want one. And the joy of it is it is a testament to the agility and the capability of the team to do certain things, which means that you get to answer harder, more interesting questions. So, last year, after that award was announced, it immediately converted into novel opportunities. And my favorite bit as an innovation person was someone coming to us and saying, I know you're doing this for other people, but like, I want mine to be the hardest you've ever done. Like, I want this to be the trickiest. So literally, right before meeting you today, we've just finished the most complex tilt we've ever done, like moments before I arrived here. And to me, that is the biggest benefit of the award. Yes, drives a bit of fame, drives a little bit of new biz and organic growth. But the other bit I love is that someone sees that and they they're not satisfied. They would go, what will be the next level of this?
Truly trying to challenge it. It sounds like all in all, it's been a great journey and just capped off by winning the award and all the benefits that that's brought. Changing the channel ever so slightly, I'm keen to get your perspective on advice for either new starters in the industry or people considering our sector, given your background is perhaps not the traditional journey into market research and you're using your engineering background in your day-to-day work. So how would you use those experiences to give someone advice to be successful and innovative and hopefully one day award-winning in this sector?
Well, the first thing is, if you're considering entering the market research space, congratulations. All right, that means you probably have an innate restlessness, an innate curiosity, empathy, desire to understand yourself and others, and that base level entry point for me trumps any CV. Right? So if you look at the composition of Freemavens, it's an amazing mix, multinational, multilingual, no obvious skews towards any degrees. Several people didn't go to university, because that's not really what you need. I think so few industries are like this, where for the right company, your first step isn't necessarily defined by a piece of paper. It's really defined by how you think. And I think that is the most beautiful, liberating thing in a tricky world. Like, we're all sample sizes of one, all right? And I don't put a lot of faith in personal experience. I think anecdotes are good for chats at the pub and the likes, but I'm not sure always we should build great conclusions from our tiny little narrow experience of reality. But when you get a bunch of sample sizes of one who think in different ways, and how they approach the problem is more important than what they know, something magical happens. So what I love about people who want to start out, you have amazing power. And the power comes from humility, a little bit of lack of wisdom and lack of experience, which means you haven't drunk the Kool-Aid of the standard questions to ask. So when I meet young people or people starting out in the industry, I always tell them the first job is be a sponge, right? Collect the experiences around you, practice your craft when you're on a bus, read the dynamics, try doing things that are out of routine, try to live other people's lives, and know that it's okay not to have that experience. What's not okay is not wanting to collect that experience. So be a sponge, that's number one. Number two is work on your empathy muscles. You know, how can you distance your experiences and what you know from the people you're trying to understand? And don't be upset or humbled when it's hard to do that. It's a muscle you have to build. And the last superpower is being able to listen to the questions being asked. I think our industry, one of the biggest inhibitors to innovation and growth, I believe, is that we have a standard list of questions that the industry likes to ask. And there's not enough people asking if they're even the right questions. And I find that new starters ask the most fantastically, accidentally provocative questions. And it's not about dumb questions or things like that. I hate that phrase. It's more about non-purposeful questions. So when someone says, oh, there's no dumb questions, I'm like, no, there are dumb questions. The question is, was the dumb question not purposeful? And new people starting out can really ask of that as they learn. Why are we answering this question? Is it even the right question? So for me, when I see someone start out at Freemavens and on paper, no one should trust them as an individual by what they've done. They're being trusted by how they think. And in our world, I feel that when I find out the types of people my team are delivering their work to. The person on the other side of the call doesn't know what this person's CV is or how many years experience. They just feel and understand the rigor and craft and how they approach their work. And that's what builds the trust. So for new starters out there, curiosity is number one, empathy is number two, and the third is build your craft of critiquing the questions asked. That is a safe thing to do before you're like me, stuck in my ways and habitual. You're not any of that. That is a superpower in our world.
Indeed. Andrzej, fascinating conversation. We could go on all day, but I think embracing naiveties is key to a successful career in market research. I really appreciate you joining us on the podcast today.
It's been a pleasure to be here, and thank you for such wonderful questions and hosting me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.